welcome to Lovin' Life's Journey. I'm Chantel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I have 3 easy, budget-friendly spring DIYs for you. So let's jump in and get started.
For my first project, I will be using one of these 3D wreath forms from Dollar Tree. This is a larger one. I'm actually using the smaller one. I believe it's an 8-inch, or maybe it's a 10-inch. It's the smallest one Dollar Tree carries. I will also be using 2 of these pillar candlesticks, as well as some miscellaneous spring florals that I also picked up at Dollar Tree. And I will be using some of these cascading florals. These are some I had on hand from last year, but I do believe I have seen them this year as well. And I'll be using some leaves from this eucalyptus garland. These are new at my Dollar Tree. And I'll be finishing my project off with this cute little ceramic bunny from this craft kit. I'm going to start by gluing the 2 bottoms of my candlesticks together. I'm going to use some E6000 as well as some hot glue. That way the hot glue will hold it together while the E6000 is drying and I can continue working on my project. So this is what the 3D wreath form looks like when you get it from Dollar Tree. I had already attempted to assemble the smaller one, so I just wanted to show you. It comes with these 2 little like aluminum clips. You're supposed to unfold the wreath form and then you use that clip to put over the top and fold those little tabs down around each wire. Now, I don't know if it was just my smaller wreath form that was being obstinate, but I had a terrible time with this. The wires didn't want to stay in the little clips, and it was just kind of a disaster. So I had to come up with a different way to hold this together. So I am using some black zip ties, and you can get these at Dollar Tree. They have smaller ones. I couldn't find mine, so I'm using these larger ones, but I am going to use these to help hold this in place. And one thing I found with this, you don't want to pull them super tight because then it kind of wants to collapse your wreath form. And so I put several zip ties around the wires and did them a little bit looser and then tightened them as I went. Then I used a pair of wire cutters and snipped off all the ends of the zip ties as well as the wires from the wreath form that are poking down into the center. So now that I have my wreath form assembled, I'm going to glue it to the top of my candlestick. And I know the zip ties don't look pretty, but it won't matter because they're going to be covered up anyway. And again, I'm going to glue this with some E6000 as well as some hot glue. And the hot glue does not stick really well to the wires and the glass, but I went around and I kind of built it up a little bit to just give that 3D wreath form base to sit on while the E6000 was drying. And I did sit this aside and let it dry for about an hour before I continued on. Next, I'm going to start layering my florals, and I'm going to start with these cascading yellow flowers, berries. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but I'm going to remove them from the stem. And at first I cut them off, and then I ended up just pulling them all apart. So I am separating the greenery from the florals because I'm going to be using the yellow flowers first, and then I'll be adding the greenery later. So I just wanted to put in a few of these cascading flowers so that they would hang down from the bottom of the wreath form down almost to the table. And so I am just gluing in a few of these so that they are hanging down. Then I'm going to pull off a few of those eucalyptus leaves from that garland, and I'm going to glue them over the top of the zip ties in the middle, just kind of creating a little bit of a base to put my florals on. Next, I'm going to start placing my flowers in the center, and I always like to arrange them and get an idea of how I want them to look before I start gluing them in. And once I like the way they look, I'll just use some hot glue to secure them. Next, I'm going to come in with those little green pieces that we cut off of the yellow flowers, and I am going to glue them at the base of the wire wreath form, right at the edge of the flowers, so that they look like they're vines kind of growing up those wires. So while I was working on this, one of my wires just broke, and it was thankfully up toward the top, so glue was not going to work to fix this, so I used some black electrical tape and wrapped around the wire, and I'm going to disguise it with florals. Sometimes things don't always work as planned when you're crafting, and you gotta improvise. So before I add the florals to the top, I'm going to take my little ceramic bunny, and I am going to give him a coat of ivory chalk paint, just a white chalk paint. He does have a little hanger in the top of his head, like he's a little ornament. So I removed that, and I did fill the holes a little bit of hot glue. You could use some wood filler as well. And then, like I said, I'm just going to give him a coat of paint just to give him a little bit more of a finished look. Then I'm going to take a very little tiny bit of this light pink paint, and I am going to just add a little bit of an accent on the inside of his ears and a little bit on his nose. And I'm not really painting it, I'm more dry brushing it, just so it's just a little bit of a hint of pink. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of light gray paint, and I'm lightly dry brushing all over the bunny just to give it a little bit of texture. So now I'm going to start adding some florals to the top. I'm going to start with some more of those eucalyptus leaves. So my camera quit recording and I didn't realize it, but I had just taken my little bunny, and there's a hole in the bottom of him, and so I glued him over the top of the zip ties on the top of the wreath form. It worked great. I used E6000 and hot glue again. And then I am just adding in some more of the greenery, the little sprigs that I had cut off those yellow flowers. And then I'm adding a few more pieces of the yellow flowers as well. I think this bunny is adorable on the top, and he's perfect for the Buddy Bunny Hop, which is a collaboration that I am participating in today with 7 other amazing crafters. This collab is hosted by Eileen at Crafty Leanie, and she also has a live show every Saturday night called The Crafty Leanie Show, so be sure you're subscribed to her channel and check that out. The way the hop works is that after you watch my video, you'll go down to my description box where I will have the link to the next person's video, and then you'll watch their video and they'll have the link to the next person's video, and you'll just hop along to all of the videos until you've been all the way around. And be sure to keep watching, because a little bit later in this video I will tell you how you can enter a giveaway to win $100. For this next project, I will be using one of these terracotta pots. These are the ones that come in a 2-pack. I believe they're about a 3-inch pot. And I'll be using a wooden birdhouse, as well as a 12-inch wooden dowel. I'll also be using these florals from Dollar Tree. I like these. They look like a Japanese cherry blossom or maybe a dogwood blossom, very spring-like. And I'll be using one of these chalkboard wooden stakes. And I also picked up this little bird from the miniature fairy garden section. I also needed something to add a little bit of weight, so I'm using these glass beads that I had on hand from Dollar Tree. You can also use rocks from Dollar Tree or just from outside. For my first step, I am going to find the center of the bottom of my birdhouse, and I'm just using a ruler to mark from corner to corner to find the center, and then I'm going to drill a hole the size of my wooden dowel. Next, I'm going to take some dark brown paint, and I am painting inside the birdhouse, just mainly the back side of it and on the sides, just so when you look in, you don't see that light colored wood. Then I'm going in with some ivory colored chalk paint and painting the walls of my birdhouse. And then I'm going to use that same dark brown paint and paint the roof and the base of the birdhouse, as well as the little perches where the bird sits. And I'm not covering this fully. I want it to have a little bit of a worn look, so I'm letting some of the natural wood show through. And I also gave my dowel a coat of that brown paint as well. Next, I'm going to add a little dry brushing to my walls of my birdhouse, and I picked up these little metal paint brushes at Dollar Tree because they look like they'd be really good for dry brushing, and this is the first time I've used them, and I am liking how they are working. I wanted this to look a little bit more like a white birch tree, so I'm going a little bit heavier in a few spots with the dry brushing, just to look like that white bark. Next, I'm going to paint my terracotta pot, and a trick I like to use is to seal the pot first. And you can use something like this liquid sealer, or you can use a spray sealer. And so this time I'm going to use the liquid sealer. I think it actually works a little bit better than the spray. And the reason I am doing this is because if you don't seal the terracotta pot, the pot will absorb your paint, and it will take 4 or 5 coats to actually cover your pot. So this way I seal it first, and then it only takes about 2 coats of paint. Once the sealer has completely dried, then I'm going to give my pot a couple of coats of that same ivory chalk paint that I used on the birdhouse. And then when that paint is dry, I'm going to go back in and really lightly dry brush some of that dark brown paint on the pot as well. So now I'm going to push the dowel into the hole that we drilled in the bottom of the birdhouse, and I'm going to push the dowel all the way up till it hits the top of the birdhouse. And this worked perfectly. The hole was a little bit tight, and the birdhouse just sat on that dowel really tight and secure. I didn't even use any glue or anything. Next, I'm going to secure the dowel into the pot, and the hole in the bottom of the pot is a little bit larger than the dowel, but I am going to use some hot glue and just attach this a little bit. You could just put foam in your pot and push this down into it. I decided to try it this way, so I'm adding some hot glue on the bottom of my dowel, and if you set your pot on something metal, like this metal ruler, and then push this down into the hole, when the glue is set, it'll pop right off of that metal ruler. And so I am doing that, and then I am going to add some extra hot glue around the bottom of the pot, around that dowel, and then also on the inside of the pot. Then I'm going to add my glass beads around the dowel to help hold it in place, and also to give some weight to this so that it isn't top heavy. Then I'm going to cover up those glass beads with some green moss. And this is some Spanish moss that I picked up at Walmart, but you can get all kinds of moss at Dollar Tree as well. Next, I'm going to add my florals, and I just cut off a couple of the branches off of this, and then I am just tucking them into the moss, and I didn't add glue or anything. They just stuck in here and stayed in place really well. So the first one I'm wrapping around the dowel, and then the second one I'm kind of placing so that it comes up a little bit on the side and the back of the birdhouse. And then I want it to look like the bird has built a nest inside the house, so I'm using a little bit of brown Spanish moss and tucking that in the lower hole of the birdhouse. I'm also going to embellish my pot a little bit just by adding some jute twine around the top rim. I'm going to wrap it around 3 times and then tie a little knot. Next, I'm going to make a little sign with that chalkboard stake, and I was going to use a chalk marker, but it was too thick to write what I wanted to write, so I am using some white paint and a really fine paintbrush, and I just freehanded the words "Home Tweet Home." I found these cute little birds in my stash. I think I picked them up at a craft store years ago. So I'm going to use those, but if you don't have them, you can use the little bird from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to add one little bird onto the top perch of my birdhouse, and then I'm going to add another one on the corner of the birdhouse. And then I tucked my little "Home Tweet Home" sign down into the moss inside the pot, and it's all finished. I think it is so cute. If you are coming over from one of the other channels in the hop and you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I would love to have you stick around and hit that subscribe button. I do lots of DIY projects and a lot of budget-friendly DIYs and Dollar Tree DIYs. So hit that subscribe button, stick around, and don't forget to set the bell notifications so that YouTube will notify you when I upload new videos. For my last project, I will be making an easy spring wreath with this bamboo wreath from Dollar Tree. And I will be adding to it some of this eucalyptus garland as well as these pretty spring florals. I'm going to start by cutting a couple of pieces of the eucalyptus garland that are going to go about halfway up the wreath on each side. Then I'm going to remove my flowers from the stems, and I like to cut them off instead of pull them off. I find that sometimes when I pull them off, they tend to fall apart a little bit. And also when you cut them, you can leave the stem a little bit longer, and that will often allow you to have the flowers stick up a little bit and not have to glue them so close to the wreath, and it gives the wreath a little bit more dimension. So I'm starting in the center of the wreath and working up on each side, just arranging the flowers as I go and attaching them with a little bit of hot glue. The other creators and I in this hop would like to thank you for joining us today, and we are giving away $100 that will be transferred directly to your PayPal account. That means you do have to have a PayPal account, and the way that you enter the giveaway is to comment on every video in this hop. So you need to go hop from one video to the next, watch the video, and then leave a comment on each video. You have until midnight Eastern Time on March 5th to complete this, and then we will be drawing a winner, and we will announce the winner on March 10th in our community tabs here on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to all of our channels so that you will see those community tab announcements. If you enjoyed my video, please give it a like. Those thumbs up really help my channel to grow, and I would love to hear in the comments which of these 3 projects was your favorite. And don't forget to hop on over to the next person's channel. That link is in my description box. Also, be sure to subscribe and set your notifications for lots more DIY inspiration to come. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.